Is it on? Is this on? Yes. Hi, I'm Shannon Thrace. I was with my ex-husband for 15 years when he declared a trans identity. And as a liberal and a person who had actually been no stranger to alternative lifestyles, I had been polyamorous for a phase. I had dated women. I was open to this in principle until I saw really the dysfunction that it manifested. So I watched my ex-husband spiral into a really deep depression, develop sexual dysfunction, become unable to communicate, and even have delusions of persecution. And within 18 months, we were divorced. And I've written a memoir. It's actually called 18 Months because it covers that time period between the initial announcement of cross-dressing through the trans phase through to the end to our divorce. There's a QR code on one of the tables. It's actually 99 cents right now for this conference only. So, and free with Kindle Unlimited, free if you're a member of the press, please see me. And if you do take advantage of that deal, I would lovely appreciate a Amazon review. But anyway, I speak about this and I write about it on a Substack because, like these other ladies, what I saw behind closed doors, what I had a front row seat to was not what the media narrative suggests, and it was very dysfunctional and it was very different. So I want to tell that story.
Hi, well, I'm Jude, I'm from Australia, and next month is the 6-year anniversary of when our daughter, who was then aged 17, announced that she was actually a boy. So for many families, the introduction to gender identity ideology comes as a bolt out of the blue. An announcement by a child to their parents that they are trans is often the first exposure that the parents have to this situation. For us, that announcement 6 years ago was a complete shock. I was aware of 2 other girls in our daughter's drama group who were saying that they were boys, but I thought that was some sort of teenage fad and angst, and that no one could possibly take them seriously. How wrong I was. Our daughter's declaration of a trans identity was made to the world over Facebook for me to discover and read. I was incredulous at the people who immediately piled on and were saying congratulations to her. We were blindsided. We knew it was madness. At no point did we think it was okay. Our daughter had a 3-year history of poor mental health, but no history of gender distress. We immediately felt this was a cry for help and was influenced by outside factors. So started my 6 years of going down the gender rabbit hole, and I'm one of those parents with the honorary PhD in gender. Our family had already been under enormous stress due to our daughter's declining mental health and erratic and uncontrollable behaviour. However, once she declared that she was trans and we firmly said that we didn't agree with that she had turned into a male, then pretty much she became unparentable. She told us that she'd been going as a boy at school for months and that everyone was supportive and we were the only people who were denying her identity. She told her regular psychiatrist that she was suicidal, so he insisted that she be admitted to hospital. The adolescent mental health ward was run by bullying gender zealots who assured us that our daughter was now our son, and would we rather have a live son or a dead daughter. We were belittled in front of our daughter. We were called transphobic and bigoted and told that we needed to teach our family inclusion. We were told she needed an immediate referral to a paediatric endocrinologist for testosterone. She was 17 and we said no. They wrote up her discharge summary saying that we did agree to the referral. Then she turned 18 the following month and went to the appointment against our wishes. We could not stop her. We quickly learnt that we could no longer trust teachers, medical professionals or society at large. After that hospital admission, it felt like our family fell apart. We were living in a war zone at the behest of her violent rages and outbursts. Our son was 13 and he would curl up on the floor in a fetal position, crying and begging, "Mum, make her stop." I honestly don't know how we got through those next few months. The stress was horrendous and there was nowhere to turn for help. We wanted to try and shield our son from his sister's outbursts, but it was almost impossible. She was fully out of control. The things that came out of her mouth were like she was reading a trans propaganda handbook. It was bizarre and unbelievable how brainwashed she'd become. We would be subject to relentless lectures about trans. We felt like we were going insane. We would ask her to stop harassing us with trans propaganda, but to no avail. I remember coming home one night after a meal out with work colleagues to find my husband hiding in the front garden to escape her. She used to run off to a glitter family up the road, and one evening, after the usual trans ear bashing, her younger brother lunged at her in sheer frustration, yelling at her to stop. She ran off the road, up the road to the glitter family, and told them her father had tried to assault her. And the glitter mother took her to the police station. Without even coming to our house to check on what had happened, the police came around later that night and served an apprehended violence order on my husband. It was at that point we knew we had to move her out of our home. We set her up in student accommodation a few blocks from our house that was owned by a friend of ours. She was meant to go to university to complete her final year of school. However, she dropped out, started testosterone, and has spent the last 5.5 years largely estranged, other than 1 year of living back at home in 2022, which was an absolute nightmare. I lost both my parents that year, and a selfish disregard for the rest of the family made it the year from hell. For 2023 and 2024, she was largely estranged again. For all of this year, we had no idea where she was living, or what her phone number was, or even if she was alive. Then about a month ago, she contacted us and came around, went again, 2 weeks went past, and the week before I was due to come here to the conference, we had a call from the police in the middle of the night that they were trying to find her after a referral from Lifeline. She had called Lifeline saying she was going to kill herself. She phoned me the next day in great distress and has now given us her address and her phone number. And I spoke to my husband this morning and she's been staying a few nights at our house, but she's not in a good place. I wouldn't wish the last 6 years of our lives on anyone. Gender ideology is destructive and evil. It preys on our most vulnerable youth. It sells them a solution to angst, which is a complete lie. It destroys everything it touches. Our children become withdrawn, aggressive, lost and soulless. It breaks up families and causes catastrophic damage and distress. The mental health of parents takes an absolute hammering. I know I will never be the same again. I'm so thankful for my amazing husband and our beautiful son, who is now 19, studying law at university and refereeing soccer with aspirations to become a professional referee. He is full on gender critical and has come with me when I spoke at our state parliament about the harms being done to young people like our daughter, and he also came to meet Chloe Cole with me at state parliament in Sydney. He is proud of what I'm doing, trying to raise awareness of the harm being done to young people and their families. Somehow my husband, my son and I have survived this tempest, and for that I am truly grateful. I honestly don't know what the future holds for our daughter.
Yeah, it's just a question. It's a question for Emma. I really would like to know from you what you want to happen in schools. What is the situation? What is the experience for children of transitioners who have to see trans flags and teaching of gender identity in schools? And what would you want the government advice to be for schools?
Yeah, so see, when I went to school, it was so unusual. I was just, the teachers knew because my dad worked in education, so they all knew who my dad was. But, there were no kind of preconceptions or anything like that. Since then, there is the capture. And our concern is that we've got no one to talk to because we can't trust the teachers not to be Stonewall trained. And, you know, experiences I've heard, for example, are a child talking about their father and the father's fine with her using male pronouns and her being policed on using male pronouns. So it's a teacher who's saying, you can't talk about your parent in that way. You can't use he. So they become enforcers, don't they? A kind of pronouns police or trans police. And that just means that schools are cut off from being like the first port of call. You know, and that's the same for us, I think, hospitals and the police. You go in, there are trans flags everywhere. You know, what happened to objectivity?
Hello. Would you stand up, please?
Hello. Thanks for your inspiring stories. I just want to ask, and this is a question I've asked to so many parents, is like, what gives you the strength to go on? Like, where'd you go to find it?
Parent support groups have been my lifeline. I remember when this first happened, I had to go through the United States to find the first mum I found almost 6 years ago in Australia, and she runs an Australian parent support group. I talked to her for hours. That first phone call, I was, oh my goodness, finding someone who knew what was happening, what I was going through. And since then, sadly, the groups have grown and grown and grown, and I've met so many more parents. I'm in, you know, international support groups. I'm in Australian support groups. I guess I've done a lot of, I've been to our state parliament, I've been to federal parliament, I guess, and I'm very, very fortunate. I have a very supportive husband and our son, and I've got 3 older stepsons. They all really support me speaking out, and I guess for me, I've just felt this responsibility. I couldn't not speak, and that is a driver, and definitely the support of a very, very supportive friends and family is, yeah, all of those factors, I guess, have come together. But that's not to say there are very dark times. There have been times I wanted to just step back from it all and not, I wish this had never happened. Of course, we all do. But when you realise how far-reaching this is in society, we all just have to push back at it for the sake of a generation of such, you know, so many young people are being harmed.
Just come on.
Say something on what keeps you going.
Yeah, so it's been a little bit for me, so it's not bad now, but definitely right after, during and after my divorce, I experienced sabotage from my ex-husband, calling me an abuser, making explicit statements that I had said certain words and done certain things that I hadn't done. I lost a ton of friends, like almost all of them. So for me, writing was very cathartic at first. When I started my memoir, I really just did it to get things off my chest, and then over time it became a project I wanted to finish. I found friends, again, online, similar situations, other people who had gone through this, gender critical groups, you know, were very supportive. And then over time, I have found that it's really like people who care about liberalism, people who care about free speech. So now I have a lot of friends who are very different from me. I'm an atheist. I have some very good Christian friends. I have some very good friends all across the political spectrum. So people who really care about telling the truth, who hold honesty as a very high value, are very good allies. People who care about free speech, people who care about not being coerced. That's where I've kind of ended up finding my tribe. So.
So I thought for many for so many years I thought this was just happened to me, that my father was a particularly cruel and abusive person who just happened to be trans. And later it's in talking, you know, those conversations that you have, and you see the patterns, you see the same behaviours again and again, you think, oh, actually, there's something else going on here. And talking to other children transitioners has been a really big deal for me, and also having a kind of support from friends in the Women's Rights Network who've actually come with me to support me, having a sort of feminist backing to what I'm doing as well has been really, really important for me. So it's a kind of friendship and sisterhood. And I just want to say, yesterday at Genspect, you were in the afternoon, and it was so inspiring with so many people saying, speak up. It wasn't even a year ago that I was in the Battle of Ideas, just running a store, and I saw Stella O'Malley, and I'm really shy. And I thought, well, I'll go over and talk to her. And I had to wait because other people were talking to her. And then I spoke to her just briefly, and I said, oh, I run this little organisation. Here's my phone number. And I ran off. And a year later, barely a year later, I'm in the Kalani group. And here I am on an international stage. And it's just like, it's the speaking up that keeps you going. And it's the girl in the video that keeps me going. And it's the little babies, that, you know, that kind of thing that you think, actually, no one's speaking for them. So let's do it.
Thanks very much, Marcus Evans from the UK. Really appreciated the presentations. My sort of question's already been taken, but I've been encouraged to carry on anyway. But the thing is that this picture of a collapse followed by a solution, but then the sort of contagious effect on everyone around who says, no, you're the wrong person, you're a bad mother, you're a bad family, whatever. And the point that I was going to bring up was about the things that you really talked about, the support in order to go on saying, no, I know that there's an underlying problem here, and I'm fighting to sort of stand up for that kid that's been struggling. This sort of manic ideology is actually just covering the problem, and it's going to collapse at some point. But my additional question about the support is about that sort of internal resolve, because we've all got questions about ourselves as parents, as partners, and how you, in a way, resist that propaganda that you're wrong, you need to step down and support the sort of manic solution from my psychiatric point of view, forgive me. But just the sort of internal belief that you go, we've got problems, every family has, I'm not perfect, but I basically believe I'm doing the right thing, and I'm going to fight for what I believe in terms of where my daughter is going to need our help in the future, something like that. But enormously difficult to do that in the face of the sort of accusations, you're wrong, etc., etc. Anyway, I think you've already answered it, because the support of the group is very important, but also the sort of internal sort of resolve and dog to go, no, I'm not backing down. Anyway, thanks very much. Really enjoyed the presentations.
Hi, I'm Carol Lawrence, parent again from the UK. So I've got a couple of things to say, and then it's going to end in a question to the panellists. When 5 years ago, when the rocket hit us, I went to our GP to ask what support we could get there, because we were so horrified. And I was told, you've got to accept it. Here's some information about Mermaids UK. Oh my God. So then the next place we went, like you talk about Brighton, like a similar place to that not far away in gender woo-woo land is called Forest Row in East Sussex. So but I didn't know this. We went to a therapist there, and he told us, your son is self-actualising, and we should accept it. So then it was a good few months before we found anything like parent support. Because I was looking, and I suppose it was 3-4 very long months, and I was looking all the time. So one of the first questions that I ever ask parents, and there's a huge well of parents who are in distress and families in distress who don't manage to access any support, or who are too inconfident, too working class to get there. So I always ask parents, how long did it take you to find any help? And that's the question that I'd like to ask the panellists.
I think it did take only a couple of months before I found fourth wave now in the United States, and then parents of ROGG kids in the United States. And once I found those places, which then referred me back to this mum in Australia, then it grew from there, but it grew gradually. It was, those first few years were incredibly frustrating, and when you reflect on where we are now, I just want to mention there's a friend of mine in Australia, Stacia Fry, and she's just produced the most amazing podcast based on Australia called Desexing Society, and it's on YouTube, so if you get a chance to listen to what's happening in Australia, I'm in the first episode. I think there's about 6 or 7 at least episodes, but you know, to now be seeing so much more information out there now compared to 6 years ago, it was a desert. There was just so little. So we have come so far in this time period, but yeah, it was difficult, and you felt alone because it was just sheer persistence and looking and searching to find something, because there's certainly nothing readily available, because everything's available. You know, every letter I wrote, I was told to go to pro-trans parent support groups, and I had the problem. I was the problem, so.
Yeah, I think I found support of some sort immediately, like even when I was still married, thanks to the internet. But as far as hearing from another partner, specifically another wife or someone who had really had a very similar experience to mine, I think that may have been a few months. It may have been even longer. I think that when I started to write, that's when I started to hear from people who said, hey, I'm going through the same thing. Yeah.
There's no support for us. I wasn't supported. There was that American organisation, which I think works the same way as the Beaumont Society did in the UK, in terms of just making you used to it and making it just something that you have to put up with. You know, I'm 53 and I've never had therapy about this, and I set up a small support group. So there's nothing really for us at the moment, but obviously as the numbers are coming up, hopefully, so, you know, professionals will start to get engaged in what we're going through. Yeah.
Can you hear me? Kathleen Dooley, ROGD mom from South Carolina. I'm also a recovering lawyer. And just to touch on that point about how long, research is baked into my DNA. I've been practicing law for over 35 years. It took me 9 months of solid research. Dr. Google did not want me knowing until I found Lisa Littman in March of 2020. The question I want to put to you, Judith, you and I had touched on this the other night, and you said that your son said, Mom, when will it stop? That's exactly what my then 10-year-old said 5 years ago. And we're talking a lot about support here for the parents, and I think we cannot overlook the damage that's being done to the siblings. What advice, did you do anything in particular with your son to get him to the point where he's at now? Because it sounds like he's thriving, he's doing well.
A lot of love.
Okay, that was a very informative panel group, and just so you know the book we will be releasing next year, Genspect will be releasing, a gender framework, and Emma has contributed to it. So we are trying very, very intensely to get the voices of the family members. And I think Shannon and Jude and Emma are such brilliant representatives of each of those points. So thank you very much.